Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror movie called Sabrina. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens as Arka Vey, the CEO of a popular Indonesian toy company, returns home late at night. Just as he's about to open the front door, a monstrous growl is heard from upstairs. Arka rushes in and quickly heads to the room where his wife is supposed to be sleeping. He shockingly finds the place in a complete mess, with a trail of blood leading towards an open window. Frightened, he runs to the window, only to see a horrific sight. His wife, Andini, has been possessed by an evil spirit, and her body is floating high above the ground. Feeling helpless, Arka contacts two of the most renowned psychics in Indonesia, Laris and Raymond. He tells them the severity of the situation, and they promptly agree to help. On their way to the Vey household, Raymond reveals that Andini was possessed by an evil spirit 3 days ago. She had been coughing up blood and feeling sick ever since. But Andini's condition deteriorated a few hours ago, and her face began changing into a monstrous mess with a bloody jaw and blue eyes. Soon afterward, the two psychics arrive at the Vey household and are quickly escorted to the bedroom where Andini is currently locked. But before entering, Laras warns everyone to keep away from the bedroom unless they come out. The scene then shifts to a year later, where both Andini and Arka have passed away. Their only daughter, Vanya, now lives with her uncle Aiden and his loving wife, Maira. Ever since his brother's death, Aiden has become the sole owner of Kev Industries. The couple tries their best to take care of the little girl, but it's evident that she still misses her mother. Today is her birthday, and as soon as she returns home, they shower her with gifts. Aiden gives her the latest version of the iPad, whereas Maira gives her a custom-made dress. However, the young girl grabs the iPad and sulks back into her room. It is clear that she wanted a PlayStation 5 instead. This breaks poor Maira's heart, so Aiden tries to change the topic. He surprises her with a limited edition doll from Kev Industries named Sabrina. It is then revealed that the young couple had lost their daughter Kayla to cancer a few years ago. The little child loved playing with Sabrina, which is why Aiden decided to manufacture a second edition of the toy in her memory. He hopes that the doll will now help to build bridges between Maira and Vanya. The following day at school, Vanya and her friends gather around the class clown Ditho during lunchtime. He has brought a board game named Charlie, through which he can communicate with the spirit of his dead grandmother. Right before lunchtime ends, Vanya asks Ditho if she can borrow the game for a few days. He agrees and even tells her about the Charlie app, which can detect the presence of spirits. However, Ditho warns her to pray after she is done using the board. The prayer allows the spirit to go back to its peaceful realm. That night, Vanya sits in her room and successfully activates the game. She then uses the app on her iPad to search for her mother's spirit. It leads her down into the basement, which is dark because of a power outage, and also because it's a basement. Suddenly, a human-like figure can be seen on the app, and Vanya approaches it cautiously. But it turns out to be Maira, who is there to switch on the backup generator. When she gets to know about the game, she feels bad for the little girl, so she leads her back to the bedroom and gives her the Sabrina doll. It is revealed through their conversation that Maira's late daughter used to cuddle with the doll whenever she felt sad. Maira now hopes that Sabrina will have a similar effect on her niece. That night, Vanya sleeps with the doll but forgets to chant a prayer which would allow her mother's spirit to go back to her realm. As a result, while the young girl sleeps, the doll's eyes begin to move. Mama. The following morning, things seem to drastically improve for everyone. Aiden's toy company records historical profits, and Vanya also wakes up in a good mood. She comes down from her room holding Sabrina and wearing the dress that her aunt had custom tailored for her. Before leaving for school, she even kisses her aunt's hand and thanks her for the gifts. That afternoon, Maira works from her home office, sewing and trying out new designs. She suddenly hears music coming from upstairs and goes to check Vanya's room. She is shocked to find Sabrina sitting on a chair, as it was downstairs only a few moments ago. Although creeped out, Maira shoves the chair slightly, closes the room's windows, and turns off the music. But as she turns around, the doll is creepily facing right at her. She then hears noises from the hallway and rushes out the door. To her relief, the maid is cleaning the hallway, and Maira assumes that she was the one who moved the doll earlier. That night, Vanya secretly tries the Charlie app again. She soon detects the movement of a spirit nearby, but is disappointed to find that it's just a mannequin. However, as she walks away from the room, a creepy hand emerges from the cabinet behind and drags her in. This makes her scream in horror, prompting Aiden to rush to her rescue. He hastily opens the cabinet but finds no one except Vanya in there. Clearly shaken from the experience, the little girl explains that something grabbed her and locked her in, but Aiden thinks that the continuous usage of the iPad is causing her to imagine things. Thus, he tells her to limit screen time and takes her downstairs for dinner. However, after everyone falls asleep, Vanya sneaks into her uncle's bedroom and takes the iPad. She once again uses the app, and it soon detects a spiritual movement nearby. To her surprise, Vanya finds her mother, Andini, standing on the terrace. She quickly approaches her and claims that she missed her a lot. In response, Andini's spirit lovingly escorts her back to the bedroom and tells her to sleep peacefully. She also promises to Vanya that she'll never leave her again. The following morning, Maira enters Vanya's room and sees her talking to someone. She finds it a bit odd, but then realizes that kids her age do this quite often. She simply goes downstairs without thinking much about it. Unbeknownst to her, the little girl is not having a conversation with herself, but rather with Andini's spirit. After a while, the breakfast begins to get cold and Vanya still hasn't come downstairs. Maira then decides to fetch her from her room, but as she climbs up, she sees Sabrina the doll sitting in front of the attic's door. Slightly creeped out, Maira ignores it and goes to the attic looking for her niece. She accidentally stumbles upon some documents that seem to be her father-in-law's will. In a shocking twist, Sabrina has somehow moved indoors and is closely observing her from behind. But Maira is interrupted when she hears a clattering noise coming from a pile of boxes nearby. She crawls towards it, only to be surprised by a playful Vanya. The little girl happily shares that she was actually playing hide and seek with her mother. When Maira inquires about how she sees her mother, Vanya reveals everything about the Charlie Charlie game and app. Worried, Maira immediately goes to her husband and informs him about it. The couple knows that Vanya is still grieving her mother's death, so to clear her mind, they decide to go on a family vacation. In the next scene, the trio arrives at a beautiful island near the city. They share several beautiful moments together at a beach. Aiden even digs up a spacious hole for them to put seashells in. Nothing says I love you like digging a big hole. Meanwhile, the aunt-niece duo play a game to determine who can collect more shells. They put their buckets together in one place and go their separate ways. But when Maira returns, she finds that her bucket, which previously had a lot of shells, is completely empty. On the other hand, Vanya and her bucket are missing without a trace. This worries Maira, and she frantically starts looking for the little girl. She eventually finds her at a distance, talking to someone, but there is absolutely no one around her. Confused, Maira confronts her about it, and the little girl explains that she's talking to her mother. Maira tries to snap her out of her imagination, but Vanya insists that her mom is with them right now. This prompts Maira to have a conversation with her husband, and she goes back to the spot where he was digging a hole. But Aiden is at the other end of the beach having a drink by a hut. Just as she begins to walk towards him, an arm creeps out of the sand, grabs her legs, and drags her into the hole. Before she can make sense of what is happening, an unseen force begins to shovel dirt into the hole. This prompts her to scream for help at the top of her lungs. Fortunately, Aiden notices her and manages to save her in the nick of time. A terrified Maira then cries in her husband's arms, explaining that someone dragged her into the hole. Ghosts hit different on vacation. Later that night, Maira hears someone knocking on the door, so she goes to inspect. When she finds no one outside, she decides to take a look at the nearby gazebo. To her surprise, a woman dressed in white is playing a piano. Maira is left speechless when she realizes that the woman is none other than Andini. But her reaction instantly changes when Andini's head rotates, revealing a terrifying, disfigured face. Hearing her screams, Aiden quickly gets out of bed and dashes to his wife's rescue. He finds her alone, locked in a changing room near the gazebo. There are wounds all over her arms and face, and she is clearly shaken. A frantic Maira then explains everything and takes him to the piano, but there is no one around. However, the security TV nearby suddenly turns on, revealing that Andini's spirit is not far away from them. Before the couple can make sense of what is happening, Andini lifts them up in the air and slams them on the ground. Frightened and hurt, the couple musters up all their strength and bolts towards their room. Once inside, Maira quickly locks the door while Aiden carries Vanya. They then watch in fear as the door begins to rattle with Andini's heavy pounding. Fortunately, Maira springs into action and wraps a sacred necklace around the doorknob. This Laris finally chases the demon away, prompting the lights to come back on. The following day, the couple visits the famous psychics Laris and Raymond, who are now married to each other. Maira shares that story of Vanya and details everything that has happened in the past few days. In response, Laris tells them that Vanya made a grave mistake by summoning a spirit. Disturbing the dead and making them come into the human world always comes with dire consequences. In the next scene, the psychics arrive at the couple's house to investigate. Laris announces that they will begin by playing the Charlie Charlie game to determine whether the summoned spirit is really Andini. She then instructs Vanya to answer 3 questions that only her mother can answer. The little girl obliges, and shortly afterward, she confirms that all the answers are correct. The psychics then instruct her to head upstairs while they talk to her mother. Following this, Vanya goes to her room along with a maid and begins coloring her drawing book. In the meantime, the psychics prepare to send Andini's spirit back to the realm of the dead, but she refuses to be sent back, which compels them to use a forceful procedure. While they're busy downstairs, the lights in Vanya's room suddenly go out, and she gets possessed by the spirit of Andini. She stabs the maid with a pair of scissors and then hurries out of the room. As soon as she reaches downstairs, she stabs Laris in the back of her shoulder, but before she can do more damage, the 2 men pin her down. Laris and Raymond then exorcise the little girl with all their experience, eventually bringing her back to sanity. However, the threat is far from over, as they are confronted by the spirit of Bagaya, the daughter of the devil. Soon enough, the entire house starts to shake. The lights flicker and the furniture begins to swing violently. Everyone quickly rushes outside, but Raymond and Aiden return back to carry the unconscious maid and Sabrina to safety. Once outside, Raymond ties a powerful sacred necklace around the door handles, finally ceasing the horror. These necklaces are OP. Later, at the hospital, he informs the couple that the spirit they saw today was not actually Andini's, but rather the daughter of the devil, disguised as her. A flashback then cuts to a year ago when the psychics entered Andini's bedroom for the first time. They had realized back then that Bagaya was trying to take control of Andini's physical body to live among the humans. Thanks to Laris's exceptional powers, the demon was casted out of her body, but not before both Andini and her husband were killed. Back in the present day, Raymond reveals that Bagaya has returned to take revenge on Laris. He urges Aiden and his family to move somewhere else for the time being, as their house is now haunted. The following day, Aiden takes his family to his father's factory. Meanwhile, the psychics ready themselves to battle it out with Bagaya. Before entering the haunted house, Raymond presents Laris with a powerful and sacred heirloom that he had discovered in a remote cave a year ago. They plan to defeat the demon with the help of this weapon. The psychics then say their prayers and open the sealed door, only to realize Bagaya is not here anymore. At this moment, it finally dawns on them that the demon has escaped before Raymond sealed the home, and now it is residing inside Sabrina, the doll. On the other hand, Aiden learns that there is no one at the toy factory, as it is a local holiday. He decides to show his family around the establishment, but Vanya wants to pee first. Maira follows her to the bathroom's door and waits outside patiently. Just then, she hears a faint, demonic growl from the other end of the room. To her horror, she finds Bagaya staring right back at her. Maira quickly grabs the little girl and rushes to the sewing room, where Aiden is waiting for them. The trio then runs towards the exit, but Maira is unfortunately dragged back into the room. This scares the life out of Aiden, so he instructs Vanya to call for help, while he repeatedly attempts to open the door. Inside the room, Maira writhes in pain as the demon slowly takes control of her body. The psychics arrive simultaneously and help Aiden to burst open the door, but it is too late, as Maira is already possessed. She abruptly comes out of the dark and stabs Laris in the abdomen. She then pushes Raymond into the shelves while easily sweeping Aiden aside. Laris takes advantage of the distraction and uses her sacred necklace to stop Bagaya from advancing further, but the demon cleverly forfeits Maira's body and takes control of Aiden. Witnessing this, Laris hides in a room, desperately trying to save herself. She starts having flashbacks of her past life and how her first husband and child were were taken away from her by evil spirits. This makes her really angry, and she becomes determined to save the loved ones around her. So, as soon as Bagaya enters the room, she bravely wraps the necklace around its throat. Outside, Raymond regains consciousness and quickly searches for Sabrina the doll. When he finds it nearby, he grabs it and runs to Laris. The two psychics then battle the demon and manage to pin it down. For the ultimate finisher, Raymond places the doll over its body and stabs it with a knife. This causes the evil spirit to leave Aiden's body and finally reveal its true form. However, Laris is prepared for this moment, as she has the powerful heirloom that Raymond gave her. She stabs Bagaya's abdomen and slashes its throat in one fatal swing. The demon then explodes, creating a whiplash that causes Laris and Raymond to drop to the floor. Despite their injuries, they survive, while Bagaya is finally banished from the human world forever. Good thing that random thing that guy found in a cave beat the devil. The final scene shows the aftermath of the whole incident. Vanya finally accepts her mother's death and embraces Maira as her mother figure. On the other hand, Laris and Raymond get a phone call from someone asking them to solve a new case. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.